Marcus Chimenello, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Ivan. Great. How are you?
Very excited to have you on the show, mate, or on to be able to have a conversation with you at least. It's not really a show, but how's your morning, mate?
So far, so good. Well, I'm starting my morning with you, so I couldn't ask for much better.
Nice late start for a real estate superstar like you.
Yeah, true. It is Friday. Come on.
Tell me, I mean, you're actually the first agent that I'm actually having a recorded conversation with outside Sydney.
Okay.
Those who don't know, Marcus Chimenello is a director of Marshall White. How many years now have you been director?
Been a director for 13 years, been with the company for 20.
One of the biggest names in Australian real estate, someone who we actually hadn't met, but I certainly knew of you, and everyone in Sydney who's been in real estate for for more than 10 years definitely knows who you are. But for everybody listening, Marcus is the number one premium agent in Melbourne. I know they used to speak at ARIC. How many times have you spoken at ARIC?
3 times now.
So yeah, so I knew you'd spoken at ARIC three times.
Yeah.
Um, Sells amazing properties. I think you're having a great year, by the way. I had your assistant send me over your sales list, and it's
Yeah.
really strong.
It's
Some
been
big,
good.
well done. We'll hear more about that as we talk this morning.
Hmm.
If for those who don't know who Marcus Chimenello is,
Hmm.
how would you sort of describe yourself? You're going to have difficulties.
Great. That's a great question. I'd like to claim my humility because I get told how humble I am all the time.
Mm,
Um, Mate, I just get on with business. My focus is life in a holistic manner, not real estate as the all consuming. It once was. I'm very different today than I was maybe 15 years ago. Mate, I'm just a family man that enjoys the successes and the rewards of hard work with not to me, but also with others in terms of my family.
mm,
Um, Mate, that's me in a nutshell. I'm a fitness freak. I love keeping fit. I love eating well. I love really looking after myself.
mm.
And outside of that, it's work, family, and health.
Good on you. Yeah, I
Mm.
knew you'd find. I mean, we've spent a bit of time together, not enough. I hope we can spend more. But I knew you were going to have difficulties answering that question because you are a very good
Yeah.
person and you're very liked in the industry. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't, you're like Shannon Whitney, my ex-business partner. No one says a bad word about Shannon. No one's ever
Mm.
said a bad word about you. It's only respect. So, but I want to go back a little bit, mate, if we could. I know a bit of
Sure.
your history because
Mm.
you're in your 40s. You and I are similarly
Mm.
young. Um,
Yeah.
you came from hardworking parents. They
Mm.
they had a store, didn't they? Did they have a store?
Oh, they did. They had many ventures in stores along the journey. None of them were really ones that laid a foundation of success financially, anyway.
And
So
so what? And so you did. How did you went like? What age did you get into school, and what was the catalyst? What age did you get into real estate? What was the catalyst?
there was the catalyst was, and I'll go back a step, and I don't want to make this a really long answer, but given probably my parents' financial ignorance, I grew up very young. I had to. I was calling real estate agents as a 9-year-old to 10-year-old to organise keys to get into rental properties. There was a day where you'd ring, they'd literally go into reception to give a $50 deposit. They give you the key, you go inspect the property on your own because they're always vacant. Very different. So I was like, we were always moving like gypsies because we'd always be getting evicted. They, wouldn't pay rent, that sort of thing. So I actually got a taste for it then. But I always wanted to do architecture. And during my schooling, one time when I was about 15, there was an opportunity that presented itself to do a building or a carpentry apprenticeship. And I was doing really well at school. So academically, I had no issue whatsoever. But the thought of going out there and learning a trade and coming from an Italian background, my dad's like, yeah, yeah, do it, do it, do it. Mum's like, no, 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 you're going to university.
Mm,
And that got me into the building industry. But I always thought at some point I would get into real estate and or architecture and or development. And in some respects, I've done all of that.
mm.
Um, it got to a point where I tried a few different careers, too many to count. That I said, like, I always had this. I've got to get into it. I think I'd be good at it. I really want an opportunity, and I ended up getting the opportunity via Colin Sims, which was a business that I started in. A couple of us from Marshall White did, and came over a couple of years later. That was a careers night I went to with
Yeah.
about, I think, 80 to 100 people in attendance. You leave your resume, you got an interview, and they whittled it down to almost like tennis, the quarterfinals, the semis, and then through to the final two. I made the final two with zero experience. And then I got the call to say, look, unfortunately, we've elected to go with the other person as the applicant. We'll keep your details on file, etc., etc. Good luck with everything.
Mm.
The Monday, probably fortnight later, they rang Colin Sims and said, look, circumstances have changed. The gentleman who accepted the role has decided not to accept the role anymore,
Oh.
and he's moving to London with his girlfriend. I sincerely thank that guy for letting me do the Stephen Bradbury and
Yeah.
letting him fall over the line. I dashed through, and then that was my first entry into real estate, stuffing envelopes for a day,
Mm.
and and the rest is history.
And how old were you when you got that job at Colin Sims?
It's 24 years old.
Right. And then you stayed in that business in leasing or in sales?
I was in sales as a PA to a very, very mediocre performer.
Yeah.
She thought I was going to be the effect, not being personally, but having a PA was going to accelerate her business without her actually doing anything different.
Yeah.
I was in that role for about 11 months, and I got sort of the tap on the shoulder from James Tosterman to say, hey, I'd really like you to join my team. At the time, everyone feared James because James would come in, do his work, get it done, a high performer,
Yeah.
and didn't let anyone get in the way of his success. So you sort of stayed out of the way and you weren't sort of personally close to him. And I just thought to myself, that was a great opportunity for me to accelerate my learning and my career. And
Mm.
so I joined James's team. James and I then, about 11, 12 months later, I was only with that firm for 2 years. We elected to join Marshall White.
Yes.
I still stayed on as a PA. And then
As,
James kept saying, mate,
sorry, you stayed on as his associate.
yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
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 And then that was another 10 months maybe. And he said, look, he said, you're already outgrowing this role. You need to go and do it on your own. As much as I'd love to keep you here, it was one of those ones I want to set you free. And from that point, I went out on my own. So that was 21 years ago,
And you were how old at that time?
27, 20,
Yeah.
yeah, but probably 27 years old.
And so what were the things that you were doing at that point, if you can remember, where James
Mm-hmm.
said, mate, you've outgrown this role? Why? Is it because you were door knocking or you were making calls or you just understood it or like a
Mm-hmm.
bit of everything?
Bit of everything. When you work for James as a PA, you are consumed by his listings.
Yeah.
So I remember one November, it was myself and one other PA who was 7 months pregnant.
Hmm.
We had 34 auctions that month ahead of us. So that's a lot of open for inspections.
Yeah.
And so it was just the two of us. But the one thing that I always did, as much as I knew I was responsible for James's clients' outcomes and James is obviously responsible for him, is that I needed to dedicate a part of my week to my future business as an associate.
Yeah.
So when all the other PAs in the office
Hmm.
would finish up at lunchtime on Friday,
Yeah.
I'd be there till the end of the day. So I dedicated Friday afternoons to my future, which was once again prospecting, client nurture, looking for opportunities, sniffing out deals, door knocking, doing all that legwork to
Yeah.
build momentum and build a brand. Where the others went and they've come and gone. Some of them, I think, may be in real estate, and James had a lot of PAs over the time,
Yeah.
may still be in real estate, but I don't know where they are now. And a lot of them just got out because they just couldn't handle it or didn't grow and progress.
Were you thankful for that apprenticeship with James?
Oh, absolutely. Wouldn't have, like, I don't have a very different business to James today.
Yeah.
I couldn't do what he does.
Yeah.
But I was very thankful for those learnings because I previously did a carpentry apprenticeship, which led me to be a builder.
Mm.
This was my real estate apprenticeship, and in a really fast track method where it exposed me to probably 5 years experience in one.
Yeah, so like you join his team, it's a high performing team. You've only done 12 months or thereabouts, Colin Sims. You've done 12 months for James, and within 2 years, he said, mate, go do this yourself.
Correct.
So how did you, because I had a similar sort of thing. How did you feel about that and now go, okay, James, I'm out here on my own. Did you feel
Mm-hmm.
confident? Did you feel excited? Were you anxious? Like, what was that feeling?
All of those things,
Yeah.
every one of those feelings you had, depending on the day, depending on the time of day, depending on the month. And that's just the basis of this industry, unfortunately.
Did
But I
you
was
love
really
Did
excited.
you love it? Did you love real estate from the start?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I've always been competitive, always played competitive sports. This to me was my sense of competitiveness
Yeah.
in the work environment, and I was rewarded for my efforts.
Yeah.
I hated the thought to clock in, clock out 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and have a cap salary. You
Yeah.
might do a little bit of overtime. It just didn't float my boat.
Yeah.
I love the fact that, and you keep getting these, and that's probably the upside and downside of real estate. You get these continual sugar hits,
You
you know,
do.
almost like dopamine hits all the time. And
Yeah.
it's really addictive, but it can work in the reverse if if things don't go your way.
Definitely.
But no, I did. I genuinely loved it. I still do, with a sense of excitement. And I'm excited. We had a chat before. I'm excited about what spring has to hold now, because I've got a great spring ahead of me. And once again, I love the thrill of the chase. I love demonstrating to people that I'm the person who's going to get them the best outcome. But also, more importantly, I love then vindicating that decision by doing so.
So then you become a standalone agent, Marcus.
Mm-hmm,
And what was the first, if you take yourself back to whenever it was 20 years ago, um,
mm-hmm.
what was the first couple of years like? Was it bumpy, or did you have success pretty quickly? Because like I didn't know you then, and I know my
Yeah,
first years was like. How were your first few as a standalone?
r- really bumpy. The journey then continued. And look, I didn't understand. There were people that were in my ear saying, the longer you're in this business, the easier it gets. You just need to be around, and then business will come to you. I'm impatient. I didn't want to wait. And I looked at guys in the market like
Mhm.
Matt Steinway,
Yeah.
James Dostovan, who was around with me at the time. There was other performers like Richard Winnicky from Jellis Craig, and things that they did. I
Yes.
took elements of each one of their business. So that resonates well with me. I want to do that, and I want to do that. And I molded myself
Yeah.
based on some of the habits and behaviors of other agents. And then I'll just digress a little, because what I did, I was in a completely different market then, which is the municipality of Burundara, Hawthorn, Kew, Campbell, Canterbury, which is very mums and dads. There was an opportunity to come over to Marshall White Armidale, which is called head office, to
Yes.
work as an associate again in
Mhm.
a different market.
Yeah.
This is where I am now. So there was opportunity to start maybe getting into the Toorak marketplace, getting into the higher end and getting into more development, more property people. So I actually took a step back to take two steps forward. I changed
How many
markets.
years in? How many years in did you make
Yep.
that that
I
that
was
departure?
18 months, about 18 months, 2 years into Marshall White as a standalone agent. And
And
at the time,
did someone suggest it, or did you kind of look at it and
no,
go,
by chance, I heard that this gentleman, a previous director of the company, his EA was, or his associate was leaving to maybe head into a property management role. And I was like, oh, actually, I wonder if I could do that. I had a conversation, had a coffee, and he's like, mate, I'd love you to come over and team up with me and do this and do that. And I'm like, yeah, actually, that's where I want to be. And but for the first 12 months, I hated it, because I was back to that associate. I was where I was driven by ego,
yeah,
because back there I was the big fish in a small pond. I was the lead agent. I was listing things. Then I had to go back to managing campaigns and doing what I did right in the beginning. So it was a big hit to the ego. I actually quit and said, you know what, I'm going back. I'm going back. Then after a couple of other people sat down with me, they said, no, they said, you just got to persist. You are made for this market. And I'm very, very thankful. And they're still in business with me today. And they said, you are made for this market. Stick at it. So I decided not to go back and stick at it. And then about 6 months later, I vividly remember I was sitting on the beach, Hamilton Island, my honeymoon,
yeah,
writing down, it was would have been April 21st, a couple of days after my wedding, a couple of days before my birthday. And I'm big, I write my goals down all the time. I review them, I change them. I'm sitting there in my notepad and writing them, going, I've got to control my destiny. I have to control my destiny. I can't let anyone else dictate what I'm doing. I'm going out my own. So I came back, said to everyone, this is what I'm doing. Everyone's like, shit. So this is the start of the GFC, saying, what are you doing? This is the worst time you possibly go out and you go, no, I'm backing myself. I knew what the bare minimum I had to write at that time, which was about 380 grand, to survive. And so as long as I can survive, I'll build and build and build. My first 6 months as a standalone in this market, with the behaviors and habits I'd already built and people, I wrote 1-1. So I'd never written over 500 grand before in my career. I just applied myself.
yeah,
I'd be here in the office, sitting at my desk at 7 a.m. I would have come from the gym. I would have showered in the office, been at the desk, got all my stuff out of the way by 9 o'clock. I was ahead of the curve every single day.
yeah.
The couple of years I did that for set me up for the next 2 decades. It really did. It really did. It just built so much momentum that it's carried on. So it was a lot of dedication then in a new market that I'd only been familiar with for just over a year. But I thought, you know what, I just can't. I don't want to be the slipstream of someone else. I want to be the one who creates a slipstream.
Well done, mate. And just so everyone knows, Marcus, you have the best sales in Melbourne, the highest price sales,
Yeah,
and a reputation for that. Was there a sale now that we're back there and you said that you had a good start, set yourself up? At
yeah,
what point, because we all knew Tosterman in Sydney,
yeah,
we all knew James because of his
yeah,
numbers, he's always speaking at Eric and whatever. But then we heard about this Marcus Chimenello was coming through.
yeah.
There must have been a sale or a point where uh, you went, I belong here, like, or there was was there a certain sale that you went, I'm the prestige guy, like that's just opened up another 20 doors for me. Do you
Yeah,
recall?
there definitely was.
Yeah,
Definitely
what
was.
was
And
that?
it came a long time later because I still felt like up to that point, you are the imposter. I don't necessarily belong here. I I didn't go to school around here. I don't have the heritage ties. I don't play golf. All that sort of that
Yeah,
establishment,
yeah,
and you
yeah,
feel like you're on the outer.
yeah,
And I, for a very the Smorgon family,
yeah.
a very very beautiful family, very wealthy, well known family. I had an opportunity to sell an apartment, a one. They said, "Oh, it's a one-bedroom apartment." I'm like, oh, okay, I'd love to connect with that family. I want to see what this apartment is. And I went there, and it was the biggest one-bedroom penthouse I'd ever came across. And they customized it. It was a really narrow market, but I said, all right, I'll take that on. And it was one of my high sale prices at the time. It was $4.4 million. And that was an incredible outcome for a one-bedroom apartment, particularly then in Toorak. And that set a record.
Mm.
Then about their and they were older in terms of they were in their 70s at the time. Their children had a property on the market with a competitor. And I reckon it was month six it had been sitting on the market. They were about $240,000 down in marketing expenses thus far. And they were sort of shooting for 20 mil or something. And then another 6 months passed. And then they reached out and said, "Look, we'd just love to have a chat. You did a great job for parents or in-laws. Can you come and see us?" And I'm like, "Oh my god! How am I going to get this? It was 20 million bucks. Not a chance I'm going to get this business because there were still other great performers in that price point."
Mm.
I just went there and I felt so uncomfortable in terms of my own self that I didn't deserve to be there. But I gave it my all and I threw everything at it. I thought, you know what? I'm not going to get it, but you know what? I'm going to make it hard for everyone else. That's all. About 2 days later, they rang and they said, "We want to appoint you." And I was like, "Sorry, you probably, if I say you've got the right person here. Like, we just believe that you are the one that has the process and the strategy and the energy to dedicate and with no BS." Anyway, I took it on and remarketed it and had it sold within 3 weeks.
Fantastic.
Been on the
Price?
market for over a year, 19.6 million.
And that was a big sort of, that was the first one where in your head you didn't think you deserved to be there. You got it
Still
done.
didn't.
Wow.
Still didn't. I thought, that was lucky. A lot of people reminded me how lucky I was. It was the highest sale price in Melbourne for a very long time and the highest ever at Marshall White.
Mm.
And that was 2015.
Fantastic.
The next phone call I got months later was from their brother to say, "We're thinking about relocating back to San Francisco. We've just finished this beautiful house." Anyway, I took that on. It was very competitive, but they just said, "We just got a good feeling about you, irrespective of these other agents having these raft of sales and credentials behind them. I
Yeah.
could hinge my credentials on one sale."
Yeah.
And they said, "No, we just got a good feeling we're going to go with you." We sold that in 16 days. It set a Melbourne metropolitan record at the time of 24.1 million.
Mm.
And I was like, shit, actually, I think I might be able to do this. Like the belief happened. Then another, not a family member, but another very well-known Melbourne family reached out and said, I remember I was in Bali. I was sitting at the W in the pool. I had this missed call. I'm like, oh, okay. I'll check my voicemail. And it was this well-known Melbourne family identity. I'm like, oh my God. He's like, "We are going to sell our house in the next few months. I'd like you to meet with you."
Yeah.
And once again, he had relationships with other agents and things and long standing. And I secured that piece of business as well. And that set the state record at the time of just over 26 million. That all was a sequence of about 12 to 15 months. And then I knew at that point, okay, I'm on the shopping list. I have to be now consistently to hold those 3 sales in 15 months. And I just capitalized on it.
Well done.
So, yeah.
Well done. Marshall White, can we just
Mhm.
take it away from you for a sec?
Mhm.
How's the it's a great brand. Like I always admired
Yeah.
the like, in fact, many years ago I came down to Melbourne and went around a couple of James's auctions. But how is that of like when you started with Marshall White? Has it
Mhm.
evolved? Has it got bigger? Is it smaller? Do you think that helped you? Did it hinder you? Do you think
Yep.
you built the brand? Like, or was it both mutual? Like, do you know what I'm asking?
Yep. Yeah. Great question. So the day I walked in the door at Marshall White, we were all 35, 36 people
Yeah,
as a company.
yeah,
We now are in excess of 350. So it has grown exponentially. And it was grown strategically, predominantly organically. There's a little bit of forced growth over the time, but that's only natural.
yes,
Um, Pros and cons, you lose the level of intimacy that we once had.
yeah,
And you're not going to get that, particularly if you want the business to be bigger. But with our offices, we're not opening as a franchise or just a rollout. We're opening strategically through the wealth belt of Melbourne and the
yeah,
complementary areas of the peninsula there where our clientele go on the weekends.
yes.
That's about as far as our as sort of as a growth model. We as a
11,
brand,
11 offices currently.
yes, correct.
Yeah,
We as a brand, I've always said, and I say that I've been saying this in my sales training since 2012, 2013, is you want to create a personal brand that's larger than your company brand
yeah,
in your market.
yeah,
So I do, and you do. A lot of people go, you go to an agent, you don't go to an agency. The agency's support and framework is provides leverage for your preferred agent. But I
yeah,
think you want them ringing you directly, not ringing the switchboard saying, hey, I want to use Marshall White. You do. And I think what we've been really big on, and we really focused on this a couple, like 15 years ago, is area specialist. Become a specialist because specialists earn much more than generalists.
yeah,
And there are agents out there still, they go left, right, and center and go to wherever there is a deal. But
yeah,
I want to keep a really narrow laser beam focus on a particular market. And there are many others that will not set, we don't have boundaries. You can sell anywhere at Marshall White, but
yeah,
you elect to really get hyper focused in a particular market.
yeah,
Could be geographic, could
yeah.
be price point driven, and
Yes.
focus in on that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you're saying specialization, be specialist rather than generalist. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, Your who would say have you found having mentors along the way has helped you, or did you feel you got to a point where you didn't need them and you just need a good team around you?
Both. You need both.
You need both.
Um, yeah. Mentors, respectfully to the industry, mentors, it's very hard to find people in the industry that you could use as a reference. I want to be like that, he or she. It's just,
Because
unfortunately, real estate agents,
because
because
Mm.
ego and bullshit.
Yeah,
I think you do find there's too much of it. And sometimes you scratch below the surface and go, you've got no substance whatsoever.
yeah,
And I'm big into people that actually have substance. I don't want this shallowness. And there are plenty out there in everyone's market, and unfortunately, our industry is full of it.
yeah,
But there have been a few gems along the way, internally and externally, that I've used, and then people along the journey that have these inputs, and that I include you in on that, because we had a great session earlier this year that got me thinking about things, and I've adopted some changes based on the discussions we've had, and I feel that I've got some great improvement out of it, personally and on a business perspective,
huh,
and that's why I feel like, as you said today, I'm up and about. I'm up and about, and I think the byproduct of our discussions, the way I've changed a little bit of in terms of what I do, how I'm doing it, how I look at things, is really the credit lies with the discussion we had this year,
thank you.
because I've got people along the way that are my keel that keep me on track and stability. But there's also then on the way you've got to go, right. I've got to revisit my journey. How am I going? How am I going? And that's why I think you do need mentors. You do need great support around you in terms of a team. And I've got great longevity in my team. My business manager, she's in her 10th year with me. Her and my wife are close in terms of, because those two control my
Yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
They control your
yeah,
calendar.
you're correct. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
correct. No, you can
yeah,
have him. You can. I want him. No, you can have him.
yeah,
And then the people that I work with day to day that support me,
Yeah.
Actually, we're really fortunate in retention too. Like there aren't that many people that leave Marshall White that have
Yeah.
been here for 5+ years and go to a competitor.
Yeah.
They're either out of the industry based on age or lifestyle, or they're here,
Yeah.
and we do have stability.
Yeah. Good on you. Um, it's a great brand, and mate, I'm very grateful that you're having this conversation. Do you do much public stuff, or do you keep it? You just focus on family, health, work. Do you do much of this stuff?
No, I don't. I go through fits and spurts. When
Yeah.
time allows, I'm really big. I love giving back. And if I can help an agent have a coffee with them, do one of these things, and they take a little bit away from it, I feel like we've got some, when you're successful in the industry, is to give a little bit back.
Yeah.
I went through a time where I did a lot of it. The first time I went and spoke at AREC in, I can't remember, it must have been 2013 or 14 or something. I can't even remember now. My phone blew up for the next 24 hours. Can you come and do this? Can you do? Because there was that new kid on the block. What's this guy doing?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. I was going to Perth. I was going to Auckland, went to Fiji, and I was like, fuck. Like,
Yeah.
what am I doing? Get your fucking eye back on the prize. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
it was, you know what? It was purely driven by ego. That's all.
You think?
And then just, yeah, definitely, definitely. Like you love to share, be like you're continually wanted. You know, oh, we want you here, we want you there, and it disrupted my workflow. So I'm very particular now. Like I did one for Tom Panos the other day online about VPA.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing a session next week up in Brisbane.
Yeah.
If it works with my schedule and I'm getting more out of it than just perhaps going and speaking, I might do a handful a year now. Where I could have done one a week at one point.
Yeah.
I say no to a lot. That's all.
I think it's important to say no, mate, and that's why I'm appreciative that you're here. As a mentor or as a coach, I'd always say, someone at your level, your time's so valuable. But it's
Mm.
interesting that the highest performers, you guys, are not just the best learners, but you're also the best givers. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
You spoke briefly, mate, before about goals. So
Mm-hmm.
who gave you that idea of goals early on? And
Mm-hmm.
have you maintained that for the last 20 years, or have you gone through spits and spurt, like, times where you haven't used goals?
I've always used goals since they actually found that you could write them down and they actually
They
come
work.
true if you
Yeah,
focus
they
on them. They
worked.
work.
Yeah, they do.
The greatest trainer that I've never met that had I think the most profound impact on my career and habits was a guy by the name of Brian Tracy. And Brian must be 130 years old now. No, seriously,
Oh, I know the
he'd be
name.
yeah, he'd be late. He's American. He'd be late 80s, late 80s. I still get emails from him like in terms of I still subscribe to all his newsletters and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
He's got Eat That Frog. Those sort of books
yeah,
are all Brian Tracy
yeah,
and the Millionaire Motivator, the Millionaire Next, all these things. And I used to sit there and put them in my Mitsubishi Lancer and I put the CD in. I listen to it in between appointments on the way to work all the time. And he just built behaviors and built habits. And it was about time efficiency and time management and becoming a master of your craft, all
yeah.
this sort of stuff. And I was like, this is just, and you know
Go.
what? And as you did it, you're like, it's right. You did build it more. This is right. It's true what he was saying. You keep doing, and that was, he built the foundation for me when it came to, I think, time management mastery, becoming a master of your craft,
Yeah.
and then just applying yourself.
Yeah, love it, mate. Um, and this is if you lost a list, do you feel like you're going to lose a listing?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay, so you'll walk out and go, I don't know if I'm going to get that.
Yeah, correct. I think there's times you walk out and go, and I often do it with like a colleague, and I go, oh, I was just off my game today. I said, there's not a chance in the world we're going to get that. And you do, sometimes you do it, and sometimes you do.
Yes.
And you bumble your way through it and just off your game. And you got to, I laugh when that happens. Like, I don't take it too seriously. Um,
Well,
yeah, so
that's my next question. So if you do lose it, so
mhm.
you'll still follow it up
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
as if you can get it, but then they say,
Yep,
Marcus, thanks for your submission, but we're going that way.
yep.
What's your response on that phone call?
Pleasant,
Like,
always pleasant.
give me an example.
Oh, I go. Do you mind if I ask why? I said, I said, I'm a learner of life. I'd love to understand why you elected to choose another agent, just for me to improve moving forward. Some people just have no answer to it because they've either got a relationship or something of that nature. But some people go, look, just we had a better fit because there was a male and a female and a Chinese agent or something of that nature. It was the wrong team. I go, all right, I had the wrong team then. That's a great learning. Some won't give you the response. And then I just go, well, and they say, look, we elected to go with A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Really great people. You're in good hands. I do wish you all the very best with the sale. And if I can do anything along the journey, I'm here as a soundboard. And if I come across people in the market that I already am aware of, I said, I'll actually send them to
John.
John's way. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Love.
absolutely. And because I think the one thing you know now
Mm.
in this current environment, this market,
Yeah.
um, you make a lot of money being second agent.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been talking a lot to people about having an expired listing system. Like now's the perfect
Yeah,
time.
definitely.
That's a really good point. This business requires a lot of hustle,
Hmm.
right? So you
Yeah,
had that as a result of your upbringing and what have you. And
yeah.
your late parents, you were hard work. They were hard workers. Um, what are the other like? If you were, what characteristics do you think people need, whether it's
Hmm.
natural or they have to learn it? Do you think if you
Hmm.
to be successful here, other than hustle?
Number one, as a habit behavior, is consistency
Yeah.
because it is a roller coaster. And if you want to iron out the peaks and troughs and become like not from the low to high to high, you're probably, as a very good master of the craft, you might get it to here. And you just want to balance that out. Consistency will build that out for you. So your outcomes are a reflection of your input. Simple as that. So if you're consistent over a long period of time, doing the right things, and it's like if you consistently eat shit food, you're going to look bad.
Yeah.
If you consistently do the right things, you're going to look good. If you consistently do the right things in your business, your outcomes will be consistently good.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that is the number one thing. And you've heard it. You don't have to be the best; you just have to be there.
Yeah.
And often, the person being there is the one who's been the most consistent.
Yes. Yeah, it's a good note because you're saying discipline. Like I like the word discipline, but
Discipline.
you're also saying there's ups and downs. There's times where you're going to feel like a hero. There's times where you're going to get kicked down. But if you're just consistent, you have discipline, and you maintain that baseline, which I call
Yep.
center. I say to everyone,
Yeah.
just stay centered. Don't get carried away with your ego. Don't get too hard on yourself when things are. But if you can stay centered and stay with that, that's going to
Mm-hmm.
get you along the way
Correct.
a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Um, how would you say what's your listing approach? Is it, I mean, it's different now because you're
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Chimenello. And I said to you, mate, you
Mm-hmm.
should do this the next 20 years just because you've got the best profile that
Yep.
you can actually work that much, but because of your profile, that'll just get you so much business. You've earned that.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't want to know what your listing process or what your style is today. I want to know what it was like when you first started in Armidale, what
Mm-hmm.
what was it? Was it you were well presented, you took notes, you asked questions, you were charming? What was it? I mean, I've always seen you as a really well polished agent, but I've only known you for about 5 or 10 years. What was it like
Back
when you
then,
was building?
there's a best question that anyone has ever asked me in these situations. And the reason being, everyone wants to know what I do now, but they don't want to know how you got there and what you did to get there.
Oh, what
Um,
I'm very few people could do what you do now because their name's not Marcus Chimenello and they don't have that. And they don't have that record
uh,
of sales that you've got. So that's not going
true,
to help
true,
anyone.
true.
We want
No,
to know
it's not.
what you did back then.
Yeah. And I often actually suggest to people that they should be asking that exactly how you've asked it. So you're a good thinker. I Not much has changed. When I say not much has changed, the words coming out of my mouth might have changed, but the approach that I've taken really hasn't. One thing, and this is sort of going back to Brian Tracy, is you sort of want to be a master of your craft. So you want to be regarded as an advisor, not as a salesperson. So I've always had that mindset. And because we today, and even let's say 15 years ago, you could get on YouTube, you go to Eric, and you know what, you could learn how to become a really good agent without even being in real estate in terms of listing presentations. It's all available for you. What happened is everyone is the same presentation. I've got to get through this. No one. I think EQ plays a really big part in a good listing presentation because often you hear people talk their way out of an opportunity.
Yes.
They're ready to say yes, and they go, oh, no, hang on, I've got these other 6 points I want to go through first before I ask for the right question. Um, I'm very relaxed. I'm not regimented or structured to say, all right, let's talk through this. Let's talk through this. Talk through this. I know exactly what I need to get through in my head, there might be 4 or 5 key things that I want to discuss and go through, and which are really important to them. But the rest is very conversational, based on their personality, based on their needs, based on their circumstances, based on the house, based on their family, all those sorts of things. So I want an all-encompassing listing presentation that is not a presentation. It's a conversation. And then there's words
And
of
that's what it
advice.
was like 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Absolutely, definitely.
So
Because
what I'm hearing is you would go in and treat them like a person and like an
yeah,
old friend or a new friend and try
yeah.
to get to know them and what was important to them.
People like doing business
Without
with
all the
people they
real
like.
estate, without all the real estate generic stuff,
Yeah,
that we've got this, we've done this, you were going in really getting to know them as a person, and then that would open
yeah.
up the trust.
It would be a 70-30 split, 70% about everything other than real estate. So building that connection, building rapport, having, but not being contrived, because you can, like, if you're not naturally having a conversation with someone, it's almost forced, and they can read that insincerity very well. And sometimes it's a quicker meeting because I'm not really connecting with these people. Maybe I need to now move on to the nuts and bolts of things. And probably that conversation, whether walking through the house, sitting down, all that sort of stuff. And we were big on walking into a home and just go, let's just sit down, let's just have a chat first before we talk about the house, look at the house. Let me get an understanding about what you want to achieve and how you want to achieve it. Let's talk about that. Just let them talk, ask great questions, let them give you the answers of what you're going to present in 30 minutes time. So I haven't really changed that because everyone else is going down the same, timing, marketing, costs, value, why us, all the bullshit they go through. And they go, well, those last two are exactly the same,
Yeah,
which they often are. And I was, we talk about the purple cow or shining star. I wanted to be different, but not just different. I wanted to be better
yeah,
because it's very easy to be different. I could walk in there wearing a pink suit, I'd be different, but I wanted to be better. So they enjoyed the process with me. And I always say, look, selling real estate, it's a really intimate process. For the next 6 weeks, we're going to be talking every day. I'm going to be coming into your home. You got to feel really comfortable with that person, one, but then you've got to feel really comfortable that they are equipped and have the skill set and the experience and enthusiasm. I use enthusiasm, not then, to actually get you the outcome. So you've got two decisions to make because they may not be the same person.
yeah, yeah. You got to execute. Um, that's awesome, mate. Thanks for sharing. I agree, mate. Questions. I love the 70-30 thing. Um, Couple of quick ones before I could speak to you all day. I know how valuable your time is. Um,
That's right.
what do you see that what do you think's changed in the industry the last 5 years compared to 2010 to 2000? Like, what do you think's changed as an agent, not market? I know the market's challenging, but
Yeah.
have you seen what we do as practitioners? Has that changed much in your view?
Um, no, I haven't seen a huge, and like bear in mind, 5 years ago, if you go back 6 or 7 years ago, because also we had between 20 and 22 was such a weird, particularly in Melbourne, Victoria, between 20 and 22 was very, very odd. And it was a generational experience that we can't use as a reference point. I haven't seen, and I still think the fundamentals of good real estate haven't really changed. We've had these sort of moments of change that come in and affect you momentarily, then are gone again. I just think the rise of digital tools is incredible, and I see this with a few of the younger guys, and we bring them back to earth that so many are relying upon technology now to do the work that they should be doing.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing that you've got to have the fundamentals right. It's an and strategy to use technology, not an or strategy. So instead of doing the hard work, I'm doing technology. And I've had meetings with guys that dedicate 4 or 5 hours a day to social media to drive their business.
Yeah.
They're going to fall on their face in the next six
I,
to 12 months.
I couldn't agree more. I'm yet to
Mm.
see. I mean, I ask all the high performers. We've all got social media presence, but it's not like I'm yet to meet a high performer that says I get lots of listings through any listings actually through social media. You know what I love about I love your weekly newsletter. I think it's
Oh
brilliant.
yes, yeah, recipient. Yeah,
Like that's a good one. I actually
yeah,
I've sent that to a lot of people because it's a Marshall White, it's Marcus Chimenello, it's a prestige.
yeah,
You know what it is. Like if I was
yeah,
a Melbourne owner receiving that, and I'm
yeah.
getting it every week, like when it's
Reinforcing.
mate, when time comes, like it's that does that get you a lot of business, the newsletter?
Probably by default, not that everyone's actually raised it. I
It's
get a
you're saying it's a touch point. It's a great touch point, but then they've
yeah,
got to ring you and you've still got to go and execute. But it definitely,
correct.
yeah.
There's about probably just over 400 people who are weekly recipients of that. But it's
How many?
interesting that we
How
get
many?
all about just over 400.
That should be 2,000, I reckon.
Yeah, but it's 400 of the right people.
I know, but still,
Yeah,
based on your career,
correct,
one of
correct.
Melbourne's leading agent, 20 years, 400, mate.
Mm.
Someone like you should be sending that to 2,000 people. Anyway,
I do on top of that. That weekly newsletter is really good consistently, but on a twice yearly basis, I do that prestige review in a printed format, like a beautiful book with a lot of non-real estate things about it, which is about 12 pages, and that is distributed through the entirety, 5,000 residents through Toorak. And it goes out. That's a really good, I get more business out of that than I probably would the email.
awesome, mate. What is the biggest mistake young agent you see young agents making today? Because you're a bit of a like,
Uh,
so everyone's looking at you and what you're doing. They just
mhm.
probably can't believe what, and I've seen your numbers and what you've got coming up this spring. But if you look at what are the young ones do, when you look at the young ones, what's the mistake they're making
There's many expectation.
around?
Okay, they've got income, property. It's an instant sort of gratification type of mentality. They don't look at the opportunity of stepping into real estate as a career necessarily. They have to build over time. They want it immediately. So I think it's a delayed gratification that I think they need. The basic fundamentals. A lot of them as young agents, and I said this to Tom Pettis a decade ago. A lot of young agents, new agents, try and make themselves. How do I put it? Work on their internal brand rather than an external brand. So trying to get along with everyone, trying to socialize everyone, trying to do hallway chatter, and they neglect that they're trying to actually build a career outside of the office.
Yeah.
And so I always say, focus on, yes, you want to be very respectful and get along with everyone in the office, but you know what? You're here to build a brand. Don't waste time. That's probably one thing. You see them waste so much time, and life is full of time thieves. Everywhere you go, people always want to suck your time. I think you have to be really disciplined about not going, okay, I'm losing half an hour here, I'm losing an hour here. And you just got to stay really disciplined. So I think time and expectation are the two things that they make the biggest mistake. And ego. So
Yeah.
I harp on about ego, but ego is so dangerous in this industry.
Yeah, I think you're right. Alex Phillips said to me, because I asked him exactly the same question. And he said to me, everyone's playing the short game. He goes, like,
Yeah.
it takes you 5 to 10 years of good hard work to really start to build momentum. Plus, you got to stay on track. Plus, you got to get results. Plus, you got to build. Then you got to have a big team around you. So that takes
Yeah.
a lot of grind. I got I'm a real estate agent fan. Like
Yeah.
I'm a fan because I know how hard it is. So any high performers I speak to or work with, I'm just a fan because you can't get from here to here without the grind and the hustle and the blood,
No.
sweat, and tears. And it's
Yep.
bloody hard. So anyway,
It is.
you're a legend. Last question for you. Where does
Mm-hmm.
well, you've got a beautiful young family and stuff like do you keep doing you're my age, mid-40s, do you keep
Mm-hmm.
doing this for the next 20 years? Like how do
I
you,
couldn't
how
say.
do you do right now?
I,
I know it's a hard
no,
one.
I don't. Yeah, it is a hard one because you do I'll use an example. The discussion that you and I had earlier this year was about me winding up sooner than I expected.
Mm.
Whereas today, based on some evolution rather than revolution of my habits,
Mm.
has now got me thinking, you know what, I can be in this for as long as I want, by choice,
Yeah.
not by necessity.
Yes.
So I could see myself here as a listing and sales person, as long as I'm fit and healthy. And I think as someone with 50 not far around, not that far away, I've got to remain as youthful as a 35-year-old. And that's what I always strive to be. So as long as I am mentally and physically fit, I could do this for another 20 years. Do I think I'm going to do it? No, I don't think I will, but I've got the choice of doing so.
I love it. I think you'll do it for a long time, mate. Because, mate, you've built up, it should get easier. And,
Yeah.
like we spoke before, that you do a lot of buyer appointments on a Friday, which has eased up your Saturday so you can spend more family time or go to the farm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
earned that. Like I say to a lot of agents who've got, who've equally had good careers, why would you walk away from that before you're 60? It doesn't make, like, you may as well just milk it for as long as you can. And if you're
Much can.
enjoying, and you said a good one, as long as I'm healthy and fit and enjoying it, mate, you're a legend. Hey, thanks for our friendship. I actually, more than any,
Pleasure.
I value that we can call upon each other whenever we like and whenever we need
Like,
it, and we share messages. So thank you.
definitely. Likewise.
Have a great spring, mate, and I hope we get to catch up
Thank
soon.
you.
You're a
We
legend.
will. Thanks,
Marcus
Ivan. See you,
Chimenello,
mate.
legend,
Take
mate.
care. Bye.
Mate, thank you so much. Bye bye.
Pleasure.